Chapter 39 Carter Shows. Mind the time when... The summer before my final year of high school, I took a job with a traveling carnival. What attracted me most to Carter Shows wasn't just the work itself, but the chance to travel, to escape the familiarity of Maidstone, if only for a few months. The show never ventured beyond the counties of extreme southern Ontario, but it was still far enough away to be beyond my parents' watchful eye. My Slovak mother, in particular, had a keen ability to track my whereabouts, and she was unthrilled when she learned I had chosen carnival life over a more traditional summer job. But work back then was scarce, and picking tomatoes under the scorching sun wasn't an option I was willing to entertain. And so, the carnival it was, with the occasional call from a payphone serving as my only concession to home. Carter Shows was owned by Ernie Carter, a no-nonsense man well beyond his prime. He was rough around the edges but commanded respect. Despite the stereotypes often associated with carnival operators, Ernie had integrity. He ran a tight, fair operation and had an almost relentless source of energy. From early morning until late night, he could be seen hurrying between different sections of the carnival, overseeing every detail. Ernie's story was as fascinating as any of the attractions in the show. He had grown up in Michigan, the son of a wealthy businessman. When the Great Depression hit, his father's fortunes crumbled. One day, as if pulled straight from a Dickens novel, Ernie ran away and joined the circus. The Barnum and Bailey Circus, no less. Like many before him, he was captivated by the romance of life on the road. By 1936, he had built his first amusement ride by hand, using the skills he had picked up in the circus. Slowly, he expanded, adding more rides and growing his small operation into the dominant carnival company in the region. Stationed in Maidstone, Ernie became one of Ontario's most prominent traveling showmen. The carnival hierarchy. The people who worked the carnival fell into distinct categories. First, there were the hardcore owners like Ernie, men who lived and breathed the business. Then there are the career carnies, those who ran the midway games, referred to as joints, and the concession stands selling popcorn, cotton candy, and all manner of deep-fried indulgences. Finally, there are workers like me, temporary summer laborers, who were tolerated but never fully accepted into the fold. The veteran carnies made sure we knew our place, but on the occasion, after the rides had shut down for the night, they allowed me to sit quietly among them, listening to their stories. The firelight and stories of the road. One particular night, Carter Shows was set up in the small town of Blenheim, using a local park as its staging ground. It was a fine midsummer evening, and the warm, clear weather had drawn large crowds. By nightfall, everyone's pockets were full, and spirits were high. As the final patrons drifted home, the carnival settled into a rare moment of quiet. The ever-present hum of the diesel generators faded, replaced by the rhythmic chorus of southern Ontario crickets. The once thrilling rides, octopus, ferry wheel, merry-go-round, now sat motionless, frozen in eerie stillness. Beyond the midway, a cluster of carnival trailers, RVs, and transport trucks formed a makeshift village. In an open clearing, a large campfire crackled, its flames sending embers skyward to dance among the fireflies. Mosquitoes hovered undeterred. A gathering of carnies collected with folding chairs and bottles of various libations in hand. It was a time to wind down, to swap stories before the next day's work. The glow of fire revealed faces in the darkness, punctuated by the occasional flash of a lighted cigarette and a passing bottle. It was in this setting that Slim, a veteran carny, spoke up. His nickname was fitting. His gaunt frame and weathered face told of a life hard lived. When he began to talk, the group fell silent out of respect. Slim was the eldest and the most venerated among them, and his voice, raspy from years of smoking and drinking, carried authority. He owned most of the Midway games and spent decades on the road and was dyed-in-the-wool carny. This night, he told a story about the time he had to yell, "Hey, Rube!" a phrase I quickly learned was sacred in carny lexicon. It was a call to arms, a distress signal that brought every available carny rushing to aid one of their own. "A drunk came at me with a pocket knife," Slim recalled, his voice thick with amusement. "Said he got cheated, imagine that." The gathered carnies chuckled knowingly. "He barely knew which end was up, but he came at me anyways. Next thing you know, the boys showed up and, well, let's just say he folded like a cheap suit." The laughter grew louder, and as the night wore on, Slim's rum bottle emptied in proportion to his coherence. The carnival world was a tough one, but it had its own rules, its own sense of justice. Carnies were fiercely loyal, independent, and as liberal in their lifestyles as they were protective of their own. Ernie's wisdom, mind the time. Among the familiar faces at the fire was Ernie Carter himself. Unlike some of the others, he rarely drank to excess, and his sense of humor was as sharp as ever. Whenever he was about to tell a story, he'd start with his signature phrase, "Mind the time when..." Ernie had a gift for storytelling, spinning yards that never failed to amuse and astonish. He never took himself too seriously, and while his life had been hard, he seemed to carry it with a sense of grace. My connection to Carter shows came through Jerry O'Neill, a schoolmate from Maidstone. Jerry had lost his father in a tragic car accident when he was young, and Ernie had stepped in as a surrogate father figure. Naturally, Jerry gravitated towards the carnival, and before long, he was one of Ernie's most trusted workers. With a dry wit and an easygoing leadership style, Jerry quickly became a fixture on the Midway. His trademark black hat and mischievous grin made him instantly recognizable. While he was serious about his job, his main goal was to always have fun, a balance he managed effortlessly. Carnival life was hard. The pay was minimal, the hours long, and the work physically exhausting. Teardown nights were brutal, requiring us to dismantle and load heavy equipment into transport trucks, often in mud and rain. Safety was an afterthought. No hard hats, no steel-toe boots, no protective gear of any kind. We worked until the job was done, no matter how greasy, grimy, or bone-tired we were. Looking back, I wouldn't trade my carnival experiences for anything. It was an adventure, an education, and a glimpse into a world most people only see from the outside. But it was never a life I intended to pursue, of course. The hard work alone was incentive enough to move on to something more stable. The carnival, in its many forms, has been part of Western culture for thousands of years, predating even the Roman era. Despite the rise of high-tech equipment, carnivals persist, bringing excitement to small towns every summer. They complement county fairs, festivals, tractor pulls, offering a taste of old-fashioned fun. It's the kind of entertainment our grandparents would recognize, and their grandparents before them. And after that,